Previous guest writes the first question. You have the envelope, sir. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, Paul, let's see what we got. All right, from your perspective, what led you here today? Meaning, how are you now on this podcast? Oh, man. I mean, there's quite a bit that led me here today, but the short and sweet of it is honestly that it's all the support, all the help that I've gotten over the years from not just charities, but, family and friends. That's how I'm alive right now, and I'm able to kind of share the stories that I have to share with you today, Paul. So,
have you ever been a guest on a podcast?
No, this is actually my first podcast that I'm going to be a guest on and answering some questions for. So looking forward to it. I watched a couple of your episodes already, and they were great. They made me want to watch some more. So I'm going to have something to listen to, at least on the ride back.
Any reservations about telling your story?
I mean, I'll be honest. I of course I have some fears. I'm afraid that I may say something that's too revealing, too honest, too vulnerable. But I try to keep in mind the people I want to help. And there's always this one person, at least someone that I see that was myself and that I know other people are right now. It was that person who couldn't get out of his house, the person who was huddled in the corner wanting to die just at that moment because he just couldn't take it anymore. And I guess that's who I try to talk to whenever I share my stories and try to help them understand that there is hope and there is potential in trying to work it out.
So that we can get into the full story, let's get into the full scope of you.
Sure.
Tell me about where you were born, where you consider hometown.
I was born in Los Angeles, California, at LA.
City of LA?
Yeah, city of LA. LA General Hospital, actually. And I consider my hometown kind of two different places. Maywood, I don't know if you're familiar with that place. Mm-hmm. But I also grew up in Burbank as well. I got to see two sides of the coin, kind of an impoverished area and then an area where, they had a high school that they just, renovated as well recently. So it was great kind of seeing both of them. But at the same time, I feel my heart is, if I had to pick a place, was Maywood more than anything.
Where'd you spend the greater number of your growing years?
Oh, definitely Maywood then. Definitely Maywood. But my family and I also moved around quite a bit. I think we lived in Florence for a while and some other places, but I think that was one of the big ones, at least for me growing up anyway.
Was Burbank something that you remember your parents striving for, where they talked about it? Hey, we want to eventually get to Burbank, or was it just by happenstance that they ended up in Burbank?
Oh, well, it was it was always because my dad wanted to be closer to work. He worked at I think it was the Hilton back in the day. I think it's a Sheraton now, right by the airport. So he wanted to live somewhere where he didn't have to drive through the traffic and deal with the LA, just all the other crazy stuff that happens on the freeway. So I'm happy he did because, like I said, it was nice kind of living in an area where I get to see, I didn't have to struggle. I didn't have to worry about running through a high school where, as soon as the bell rang, everybody was crowding through the hallways trying to get to their next class. It was nice to have a bit of extra space and a bit of extra support, so.
Kind of work did mom do?
My mom was a homemaker. She wanted to be a nurse, but unfortunately, my dad was kind of the stereotypical machismo man. He was the only one who was going to work and bringing in the money, which, I give him his credit because he did work to support us. But, I was also a little bit sad for my mom, and honestly, that's how I got interested in medicine, because she had books left over from her want to study it herself. And yeah, I felt like that's really what sparked up my want to become a doctor.
So did she ever actually go to school for it, or was it just a self-interest and drive to get books and just increase her overall knowledge?
I think it was, she wanted to take the testing for it. I don't think she actually took any school for it. She just wanted to take the test, and she was kind of studying on her own to try to get to that point. Because I remember she had shared this story with me where she was about to take the test, and we just didn't have the money for it. There was just no money for it, and she wanted so badly to take it, but we just couldn't afford it. So she just had to let it go and focus on feeding us and keeping us in a home.
Do you think your dad would have let her work if they had the money to?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm one of 9 kids. I'm lucky number 7 out of 9. And I mean, I can get it, but at the same time, we could have used the money. Like, it would have been nice to get that extra income. But I don't know. I can't say that I know exactly what my parents were going through, but I mean, I've heard snippets and stories. I was kind of on the tail end out of 9.
In that 9 kids, is it what I'll say consecutive, like very short breaks in between them, or are there gaps? Because like I've got a real good friend of mine. He's one of 6, but there's 3 older, 2 brothers and a sister, and then there's 3 younger, 2 sisters and a brother. Yeah,
there's I think 2, well, maybe 3 big gaps. I have an older brother who's like, well retired. he went into the Marines. He was a infantryman, I think a mortarman, if I remember correctly. He's like the oldest. There's like probably a 5-10 year gap between him and the next grouping of brothers and sisters. And then after that, there was a bit of a gap between my brother and I, and then there was another gap between my brother Mario and then my baby sister Adi, which I always call her my baby sister, but yeah, she's very fully grown now.
For you as a kid, obviously the you mentioned moving around a bit. Mm-hmm. Never, I'll loosely say never really kind of getting settled, but what did you enjoy doing as a kid? Were you involved with sports? What was going on with you while you were growing up?
I mean, growing up, I think one big one was, if I'm being honest, video games. I loved video games. It was one of the things like, well, because we grew up in not the best neighborhoods, there was gun violence, gang violence. I mean, there was a drive-by right in front of our house. I never forget. I joke around. I tell people that's where I learned how to do the prone position because my mom told us, like, get down. I'll never forget that memory. And my brother walking up to the door and trying to make sure that if anybody came in, he was going to tackle him. That was my other brother who went into the Marines to become an MP.
The grind doesn't need an introduction. You feel it in the early mornings, in the long days, in those moments when quitting would be easier, but you don't. Grind, spelled GRND, isn't just a brand, it's a mindset. It's the decision to keep moving forward even when progress feels slow and nobody's watching. Founded by a former Army Ranger, Grind Activewear is built around one simple idea. Give everything you have and then give more. Rooted in American grit and culture, every piece is designed with purpose and commitment woven into the fabric. It's functional, durable, and built to hold up under real effort. Grind is made for people who outwork the rest. And when you wear Grind, you're not just wearing a logo. You're representing how you live, how you train, and how you show up. So visit thegrindcollective.com. That's the GRND collective.com and use the promo code TRANSITION15 for 15% off your order. You're already on the grind. Now wear it.
He's a sheriff now somewhere. I forget. He's he's in a different state. Well, he's in a different area.
Okay.
But anyway, from that, I think with that, I don't know. It was her way to protect us. I think that's what I'm trying to get across, and for her to try to keep us as safe as possible from the violence, from what was going on outside, she felt like she needed to keep us home. And one of the ways to keep us home was, I had to pick a couple of things that I wanted to do with my brother and I. We used to play games together. I loved reading as well. I was like a voracious reader. Sometimes I would stay up all night just reading certain books because it just gave me an opportunity to really, I guess, exercise my imagination and get myself out of a place that sometimes didn't feel that safe and didn't feel like as welcoming as I wish it would have been, But those are two of the big ones, was just like book reading and then playing video games. I did try to get into sports. I tried to get into basketball, but I'll be honest, my younger brother was always the person who was like a bit more athletic, a bit more skillful, at least in the physical side of things. So
when you mentioned that drive-by, is it safe to assume your house wasn't the target?
No,
but it was just immediately outside your front door.
Yeah. Yes. We heard like 2 vehicles just pull up right in front. I guess it was more of a shootout between these 2 vehicles. And from there, we just, my mom just shouted to get down and we all got down. And at that point, I think we used to have a rug in the apartment we were staying in, but my dad ripped it out as a cold cement floor that was left over. And I don't know, I'll never forget how that felt against my cheek as I laid down as a kid.
How old were you when this happened?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. I feel like maybe like around 10, maybe 12 or something like that. But honestly, I can't remember.
Any of your other siblings, did they get drawn into the gangs that were right outside your front door, or was the whole family able to stay away from it?
We think maybe one, but honestly, we're not entirely sure. And, I wasn't around during that time either because, we did our best to kind of just focus and keep our head down. And, we didn't grow up. At certain points, we were kind of middle class, but then at other points, we were definitely on the lower end of the scale. And I think when you get to that point, I'm sure you heard about this, you get that scarcity mindset where you just focus on the next day, you focus on the next thing. And if there's anything that's like a big trouble, you have to sweep it under the rug because, well, that's not what's going to get food on your table talking about it.
So when you're 10, you've got brothers and sisters that are adults and out of the house and living their own life. Mm-hmm. So you really don't have per se contact with them on a day-to-day?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I honestly had much more contact with my younger brother and my younger sister. We grew up together for the most part. The other ones, as they were growing up, I mostly kind of just watched their lives. They also took care of us. I have memories of them buying us gifts and me being a spoiled little brat when I opened them, because I would be like, okay, next gift. I was a bit spoiled growing up. At least that's what my mom tried to do for my brother and I. But beyond that, I mean, I just kind of saw them. Like I saw, one of my brothers going to MIT. I saw another sister going to Harvard. I saw kind of them doing some great things, and I wasn't sure for myself what exactly I was going to do. I mean, I thought it was a job in medicine, but I never understood what would be possible for my own life. And, I just got to add this in here. My mom always used to call us, or at least would say that I was the lover and my brother was the fighter, because he always wanted to go into the military, the Marines or something like that. I think he probably took it from my older brothers, because he saw what they went into as well. And he's like, I'm going to do that. And I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to go into the military. That doesn't seem like my bag. So that was just never a possibility in my book.
Is it safe to assume your mom and dad were not born here, or were they born in America also?
My mom was born here in California. My dad was actually born in Mexico. Neither of them have had my mom didn't have a education higher than high school, and my dad had like a 6th grade, 5th grade education from Mexico, and then he came over and held work ever since after that. So he was working pretty much his entire life. And my mom, I mean, she just did her best to help raise us and take care of us.
You've mentioned 9 kids. Mm-hmm. You've alluded to one going to Harvard.
Yeah.
One going to MIT.
Yeah.
Multiple going in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Now serving as a police officer.
Yeah.
You're going to talk about you going in, eventually we're going to get to it, you going in the Army.
Yeah.
To not understate it, that level of service and commitment back to this country, and what your parents instilled in you guys to achieve Harvard, MIT, I don't want to dismiss it. I don't want to underplay it. That's amazing. There are a lot of kids in this country who have far more opportunities than you and your brothers and sisters ever had, and never accomplished that much.
Yeah.
Do you remember as a young kid really being pushed to excel?
I wouldn't say that we were pushed to excel. I think it was much more that whatever it was that we wanted to go after life, or at least in our lives, we were, allowed to do so. And I think that was in part because, my mom was, trying to take care of 9 kids. And, trying to keep her sanity at the same part. So she was focused on that. She was also dealing with a lot of health issues that sometimes, kept her laid out, or, in a kind of not the best of place. And then my dad, he worked most of the time. So he was either working. And honestly, I don't have too many memories of him interacting with me. Like the one memory that stands out is him, teaching me how to deal with a bully when I was growing up. And he was showing me how to throw a punch, or him teaching me how to drive stick. Some of these different memories that, I do appreciate him for, but I do wish, maybe this is me asking for too much, and something I hope to do for my kids if I ever have an opportunity to have them. But, I wish they did take a bit more of an active part in my life. But I understand too now that there is things that can keep you away from the family that you love most and can prevent you from being an individual that will allow you to be something of the most influential part of another human being's life. So I try to keep that in mind when I think about things that I wish they would have done better and things that at least try to acknowledge that they tried their best for. So I guess I give more credit to my brothers and sisters individually. They wanted certain things. They saw for themselves potential for what they were capable of and how they were able to push themselves. And I think that's also a big part of what allowed me to get as far as I did, which is through the support of others, you know, being able to have other people who saw that potential and help you drive to that point too as well.
To give your dad a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, we as sons can always look back at what we wish we got more from our fathers.
Yes.
But as a father, and I'm not even going down any type of path of whether he was, you know, outwardly emotionally and affectionate or anything, but taking care of 9 kids plus your wife, he was probably trying to squeeze out 29 hours out of a day to get enough work to make, you know, money.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of that. Probably when he came home, he was probably dead ass tired.
Yeah. I mean, I will give him that credit. But at the same time, I mean, I guess to paint a fuller picture, he did cheat on my mom. He did spend a lot of time drinking. Sometimes he would come home drunk, or he would be drunk at home too. But again, this is like different parts of the sides. And I mean, he didn't have the best temper as well. And sometimes the way he chose to deal with things, I don't think anybody should be that way towards other people. So that's some of that other stuff that, you know, I used to kind of, I guess, paint the picture of who my father was in my life.
I understand. And again, not in any way making anything he did acceptable or giving excuses for, but he's also a byproduct of how he was raised.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, so, he was a baby himself, I think, in a family of 12 over in Mexico. So he was definitely the spoiled one in that family.
At the end of the day, and even if it was more driven by your mom, there was something that was instilled in you children, whether it was overt, whether it was, you know, just in the what you was made available to you. Yeah. It doesn't sound like at any point in time did your mom or your dad ever say to the effect of, well, this is your status in life. You're never going to be able to get above this.
Oh, yeah.
There was something that drove all of you kids, or at least the greater majority of their children, to far exceed the average child. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And I guess I'm just thinking it over. And I think if there was one thing that perhaps drove us, and I think also drove myself, was not to live the same life that we've been living, you know, to find a way out of the poverty that we found ourselves in at different points in our lives, and the want for more, and hopefully to see, I guess, what we were capable of, and not to end up in the gangs that we saw around us, or not to be part of what kept us in that cycle of poverty. That's all. I think that was a big part. And I'm not trying to dismiss what my parents did enable us to do, but at the same time, I don't know. I think there was, I don't know. Maybe this is where nature and nurture comes into play. You know, I guess this is where I give more credit to nature than necessarily nurture.
When you got to Burbank, did you get there and able to do all 4 years of high school, or did you have to do the mid-high school transfer?
Oh, I did. Actually, it was close to mid. So I transferred over like maybe in the middle of my ninth year. And it still sucked. I mean, I missed some of my friends. But at the same time, you know, I was bullied in high school too as well. I stood up for myself whenever I could. But it was also nice to kind of get away from some of the bullying that I had when I was growing up. So, and when I got to like high school, I don't think there was much of any bullying that I had to suffer from, at least when I was in Burbank. There might have been some minor stuff, but nowhere near as much as I did when I was back in Maywood and Huntington Park and the like.
When you were coming close to graduation, what were you thinking you were going to do afterwards? Was college immediately on the radar?
Well, I mean, that was like, again, like, you know, my parents didn't say too much about what they expected out of me. If I didn't go to college, then I was going to be working. I was going to be either contributing to the household, or I was going to be out on my own, just trying to figure out, you know, how to get by. I just assumed, especially being at Burbank, like, okay, I'm going to go, because, you know, they did all this testing, the PSAT, all that other stuff. Like, they want you to be as ready as possible to go into higher ed. And I just assumed I was going to go to community college, because I was like, there's no way any, you know, college is going to take me right off the bat. I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to pay for it. Like, my parents could barely pay for us growing up. There's no way they're going to help me financially with college. And I just felt kind of lost, because during high school, I was not getting the best grades, you know. I wasn't in a good place at that time. I even held myself back whenever I did get into like English honors, for instance. I forced myself to fail. I slept most of the time there, but I just try to get myself to go through, I guess, high school in general. And I remember I went to go fill out some more applications for community college, and there was sitting at the round table in our, I guess, kind of the career center, transition center. There was an Army recruiter there, and he's like, he just introduced himself. And that's where I realized, like, well, maybe the Army is one way to kind of step forward. And yeah, that's kind of where that started.
What year did you graduate?
2000.
At that time, your older brother is already serving in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I had one of my brothers was serving in the Marine Corps. That was the MP. I think my other brother who was in the Marine Corps, I think he was already done at that point, probably working at the VA or something like that. And then I had, another brother who went into the Army, but that was a bit later in life after he took care of, I guess he worked on himself a bit more. But yeah.
So prior to meeting that Army recruiter at the school, had you even thought about the military?
Oh, no. That was never on my radar. I always assumed, and everybody in my family assumed, it was just going to be my younger brother who was going to go into the military. So that was just like, I mean, I didn't even think I was somebody who was going to be able to make it through the military, because it just wasn't the type of person I saw myself to be. And I don't know, when that Army recruiter started talking to me, he's like, well, what are you interested in? And I told him, well, medicine. I mean, I would like to become, again, I told him my dream was like to become a doctor someday. I had no clue how to make that a possibility. I thought you had to take like steps up, like, oh, maybe you become like a medical assistant, and then you become a nurse, and then you become a physician assistant, and then you become a doctor, because everybody talked about how long it takes to become a doctor. Again, that's how ignorant I was at that point. And he's like, well, if you're interested in medicine, well, maybe you can be a field medic then. That's something. And then not only that, you can become a field medic, and you could, will pay for your college. And he was giving me all the points that I'm sure everybody got when they found out that, hey, this could be a possibility. This could be something that could set me up for the rest of my life. So
then did you decide that literally that day, all right, I'm going in the Army?
No, I still couldn't see myself there, because I just was like, this doesn't feel natural. I hate to put it that way, but it didn't feel right. But at the same time, I felt so lost. I wasn't sure what was going to be the best step. I didn't feel like I had enough discipline. I didn't feel like there was enough of a drive for me to do much of anything in this life. And so I went to go talk to my brothers. I went to go talk to my sisters. I talked to my family. I told them what I was thinking about. And I remember my eldest brother, he was in the Marine Corps, and I was like, why'd you go into the Marines? Like, why did you decide to serve our country? And he said that, well, he needed discipline. He needed to find a way out of where he was at, and he felt like that helped him out the most, and it gave him motivation to continue working hard. And he's living pretty comfortably right now himself, so it helped him out quite a bit. And he's like, if that's what you need in your life, then that's where you can go, and that's what you can get from it. And other people were telling me like, no, don't do it, because it's dangerous, or it could be you could get deployed or other things. And at that point in time, we didn't have to worry about any wars. 9/11 hadn't happened yet. Nobody was nobody was aware of what was kind of coming down the road at that point. And I knew that was a potential possibility, but again, it was just something off in the far-flung distance that I just thought, I'm going to serve my time. I'm going to also serve my country. I'm going to get the discipline that I needed. And then, well, I'll be able to hopefully become a doctor right after that. So,
now, when you talked to that recruiter, was that your senior year?
Yeah, that was my senior year at high school. And then when I finally made the decision after talking to everybody, I think I entered into that early entry program at the age of 17. And even when I swore myself in at MEPS, I was 17 at the time too.
So you did all this while you were still in high school?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How long from graduation to shipping off to basic training?
Ooh, I think it was in relatively short order. I think it was like June. And then I think our graduation was held in May. So it was like either a month or two before I actually shipped out. And that's always the part I tell everybody. It's like I couldn't even sign my own life away. My parents had to sign my life away. So I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize what I was in store for. But I think, I got an idea of it even just at MEPS.
And where'd you go to basic training?
Fort Benning in Georgia. And then I did my advanced individual training over in Fort Sam, Houston.
Are you 18 when you hit basic training? Or did you turn 18 in basic training?
I think I turned 18 when I was in AIT because...
so you were a baby.
I was very much a baby. I was not aware exactly what I was signing up for. I just knew I wanted to get some help and also help as well.
So were you advanced in school what I'm getting at is you graduated, obviously you were 17, but you then didn't go to basic training till May.
Yeah.
You get, was it 8 weeks or 13 weeks?
I think it was I believe it's 13 weeks, but don't quote me.
Long story short, you're getting into the later part of the year and you're still not 18 yet.
Yeah, I think so. If I remember correctly, apologies. It's like when it comes to my timeline, like my mind is just a mess right now. And it's like the bright spots, the traumas in my head, those tend to shine the brightest. And when it comes to timelines and stuff like that, I tend to, it just all gets mushed together.
Got it.
But I try my best to try to keep it accurate, but yeah.
I'll ask the rhetorical question then. What was it like day one, basic training, people yelling at you? You mentioned that when you first talked to the recruiter, you didn't really kind of feel like you had the discipline to be in the military. Yeah. Once you signed on the dotted line, did you start working out and try to square yourself away? Yeah, I mean, I think they had this program where if you did some like training with them, pre-training, then they would get you up a rank or something like that. And I would, instead of being an E1, I'll be an E2. And so I did some of that. I just did my best to, I just was surprised by what was going on and the transition in life, because I was always somebody who just kind of went with the flow, took it nice and easy, that California style, that mood of just like, why worry, and it was just like, I don't know, it was like a flip of the switch, to give you an example here, I was at MEPS and they were trying to get me to sign up for something else. They were trying to say like, hey, we don't have any more spots for medic anymore. We got some infantry spots. We got some, cooking spots. And they kept, going back and forth. They're like, well, let me see what I can do. Let me see what I can do. I swear I probably waited like hours there just trying to get them to finally sign me up as a medic. And I never stood up for myself before, but I knew exactly what I wanted. And each time they came back and were trying to say like, you can only sign up as infantry. You can only sign up as a cook. And I kept saying, no, if you can't give me that, I'm walking away right here, right now. And I just was surprised. And that was just the start of it, And when I got into basic training, like my brothers had explained to me what to expect. And I don't know, it just seemed so odd to have somebody who was like shouting in your face. Like, I think the hardest thing I had to deal with was not laughing. I don't know how else to explain it, because like I knew if I laughed, then I would be in real trouble. They'll smoke the heck out of me right after that point. But for the most part, I wasn't like fear, but I had a lot of respect for the drill sergeants when I went there.
Another memory that I have is I remember the drill sergeants were like, okay, you got to run up that hill, and whoever comes back last, we're going to smoke the hell out of you. And we go running up that hill, and the drill sergeants were running too, trying to beat all of us, and they're ahead. And I remember one drill sergeant took a tumble, and everybody was like almost stopped, and we're all like, what happened? I swear to God, this this motherfucker just did a tuck in a row, and he popped back up, and I'm just like, and then we started running harder because he was like already still ahead of us. And we're like running back, and I don't know, that just like my respect for them grew more and more as like I worked with them. I saw what they were capable of, and I don't know, like their want to kind of help shape us into something more and to be more. And there was just so much more to learn, and I had a lot of respect for them for that. But I think another part of this that I should be honest about is once I got there, the homesickness that hit me, that phone call to my mom and my family back home, I was crying. I was shedding tears. I told him I wanted to come back. I can't do this anymore. Like I missed him too much. I didn't realize like how much love I had for my family and their presence in my life until I was away from them. And I'm sure my drill sergeants were sick of me. But after that, I went up to them multiple times and telling them, I don't want to do this anymore. Just let me go. Just let me out. I don't want this anymore. And every time I went up to them, they would smoke the heck out of me. And they're like, you're not going anywhere. You're stuck here.
We'll work this idea out of your head.
That's what they did. It was funny too, because like at one point they were trying to, I think it was during grenade training. And they're like, they were swearing us out. They had just smoked us again. And they're like, look at all of you. You can't even like follow simple orders. Somebody had shown up late. They forgot to shave. Something happened that really set them off. And they're like, you know what? Look at Alfaro here. Like he doesn't even want to be here. And he's on top of his stuff. And I was like, what? Like me? You want to use me as an example? Because I wanted to get the heck out of here. And that just threw me for a loop, because I was like, I'm just trying to keep my head down. I'm trying to get through this. And well, it led to a point where at the very end, we finally finished boot camp, and they pulled me into the office and they're like, okay, Alfaro, this is your chance. If you really want to go home now, if you don't want to be here anymore, I'll sign the paperwork. You'll be able to get home. And I thought about it for a little bit, and I just said, no, I want to see this through. I want to get this done. I want to go become a medic. And I just want to see what my potential is. So I was happy for that, and I'm glad they even gave me the choice at the very end.
Did you find that in looking back on it, as much as they were giving you a hard time, smoking you anytime they could, never really, I'll use the word belittling you? Was it always was it a positive smoking?
I mean, they have to dress you down a bit.
Of course.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, I'm sure with all the young men and women that they see coming through basic training, you fit into a mold. A 17-year-old kid, never been away from home before.
Yeah.
This is a completely different world.
Yeah.
And for the most, like you experienced, if they could just get you through it, your eyes slowly open. You start realizing, okay, there's more to this. I can work with this. I can handle it. As opposed to, oh, you want to quit? All right, you're out of here. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. I think I see what you're saying. I mean, I guess for myself, I don't know. Like I heard other stories about people who weren't on their best behavior. I heard other stories about wall-to-wall counseling, where the drill sergeants were like, okay, even writing you up for something isn't fixing you. So we're going to have to take kind of measures into our own hands. I never had to experience that stuff because I was always making sure that I was at attention when I needed to. I was locking step with everybody else. It was, I don't know if I'm a little scared to say this, but it was easy for me to follow orders. It was easy for me to just be like, oh, you want me to do this? Okay, I'll do this. And then that way they left me alone. That way I don't get smoked. That way I don't stick out. Because the more I stuck out, and I mean, I saw that in my own community growing up, the more you stuck out, the more likely someone's going to step up to you. The more likely someone's going to put you back into your place. And I didn't want to deal with that, especially in the military.
From basic to AIT, did you get a break? Did you get to come home for a little bit?
No, I think I went straight from basic to AIT. And when I did do that, it was interesting because they smoked us so bad after basic training. I'll never forget it.
You're like, did I go back to basic?
I'm sorry. I got because it makes sense about what happened at advanced individual training because they smoked us so bad. I guess I got overuse syndrome, injury on my ankles and stuff like that because it was like dark. They had lights going off like red, white, and blue. Like the music were playing, and they're like, "We got to get you ready for advanced individual training." And like, you're not going to go over there, be scrubs and all this other stuff. And so what happened on the flight there? My ankles swelled up. My feet and my ankles were starting to swell up, and I was like, man, my feet and my feet hurt so much. Like, what's going on? I had to take off my shoes a little bit just because I was like, I couldn't even fit in my own shoes. And finally, when I got there, like I could barely even walk, and someone had to carry me up the stairs. And I'll never forget, this was like the meanest, crabbiest guy you ever met in your life. And he had walked there. He had, I guess, shown us around a little bit. He's like, put your shit down there and like kind of leave me alone. But he helped me, he like slung me over. Fireman's carry took me up to kind of the barracks. I just was surprised that like what you think was like somebody who was despicable and his willingness to still help you in what was one of my worst moments. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm starting advanced individual training and I can barely even walk at this point. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, maybe I should not be here. But I was able to kind of at least get into it, and it took me a while to kind of heal and repair from it. But that was also another learning moment, especially since I just couldn't meet the time for the 2 mile. I have no, I'm sad to say it took me a long time to kind of build up to that.
But you got to factor in the injury to it.
Yes, that is true.
I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying you got to factor. And I'm wondering if he threw you over his shoulder, because you hear so many, you're in the medical field, you hear so many of these stories where people talk about, hey, if you jump on an airplane, you need to be mindful of what the cabin pressure does to your body. And a lot of people deal with, what's that, deep vein thrombosis.
Yeah, DVTs.
But isn't it a similar type thing? Like the byproduct is your feet will swell up. And so now you've been on a plane for 4 or 5 hours and you can barely walk. I'm sure you weren't the first person that they experienced that with.
No, I'm sure not. And if they were there, like that angry guy who was there, I'm sure he wanted to be a medic too. I mean, he was there for medical training. And for whatever reason, he was a holdover, from the previous. I found that out from some other people. He was a holdover from training. He was able to pass, so now he's going through the training again. So I'm sure that's probably what rained down his parade for a bit. But, I mean, he still, regardless of all that, he understood the type of person he was to his core, and he was going to represent that even if everything else, about him at that moment felt absolutely horrible.
How long is medic school?
Oh my gosh. Haven't thought about that in forever. I think it was 10 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks of training. And then you also have to test for your basic EMT. So we took it. I passed that. That wasn't any problem. So I guess the brain stuff, not too bad. The physical side of things, that was a bit more difficult for me to do. But I guess I should give myself credit and be like, okay, maybe it was the injury that took me a little bit longer to catch up and do that stuff.
But once you're deep into the training, are you finding that you're just loving it and enjoying it?
Oh my God. It was, sorry, talking about this stuff, it still hurts a little bit because, I wasn't able to fulfill that dream. But yeah, I fucking loved it. It was amazing. I felt like I was gaining firsthand knowledge about how to help people who were in the worst of states and get them to a place of normality, a place of healing, and to help them, I don't know, I guess see that there was a life ahead of them instead of just death, that they felt like that was on their way. So even when we got to kind of the, I guess like their FTX, their field training exercise, it was, they set everything up. They had all these like, dummies, and they also had like this like kits of, like, for instance, they had a domino wound where they actually had somebody wear it and you had to see the evisceration, and they're like, okay, what are you going to do, medic? And then you get there, you apply the, I'm going to put it in, I'm going to, leave it there. I'm going to put the domino dressing, you had to do everything like it was happening then and there. It was a rush. It was amazing. And I was like, okay, this is what I signed up for. And it made me feel that much more secure that I was in the right place.
Now, you just said, though, that you didn't get to achieve it. So can you explain to me did you not make it out of medical school?
No, I mean, I graduated medical school. I graduated a master's. So I was accepted into Harvard Medical School.
While you were still in the Army?
No. This was years after. Sorry, I jumped ahead.
Okay, so now I've got a better understanding. You were talking about what you didn't achieve down the road.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
And that's why it was like, as I was talking about it, it was bringing up a profound sadness and grief that, I have to admit, I've been pushing to the side, but yeah.
I understand. Staying with the Army aspect. So when do you get assigned to your first unit?
Yeah, towards the end of it, I got assigned, and sorry. When I got my piece of paper that gave me my orders, and they're like, "You're going to Fort Riley, Kansas." I'm like, "Where the fuck is Kansas?" I maybe that shows my stupidity about geography and stuff like that, but I was just like, I just couldn't even conceptualize where the heck it was and where they were sending me. Fort Riley. I'm like, where is it? I never even heard of Fort Riley. And other people were like, I guess you'll find out when you get there.
Did you have a wish list? Was there even that aspect?
I think I did. Honestly, I can't even remember what I picked. If it was anything.
It wasn't Fort Riley.
It wasn't Fort Riley. If anything, it was probably Fort Irwin because that's, closer to home and stuff. But maybe even Hawaii because I may have wanted to get out into the tropics a little bit. But it definitely wasn't Fort Riley, if I'm being honest. Fort Riley was a trip though. Yeah, sorry. Just laughing about that. But, after the events individual training, I was able to spend some time finally at home. I remember traveling back out to there. I got to stay at a hotel before I got to, finally get placed with my unit. And I met one of the people that I was going to be pretty much spending my entire time with when I was at 116th Mechanized Infantry Battalion that I was assigned to at headquarters company. And I don't know, it was interesting kind of having somebody kind of along there for the entire ride, being at Fort Riley. But yeah, I feel like I'm going to get into another story. So let me not jump ahead again.
Do you remember the date you showed up there?
Oh, no. Like I said, my head for dates, especially when it comes around the military, I feel like a part of me just doesn't want to remember too much. And maybe that's my avoidance.
The reason why I'm kind of focusing on dates for anybody who's been listening and following along in their mental calendar, you're leading right into 9/11.
Yeah, I'm getting close to it. Yeah.
You were assigned to your unit on 9/11? No.
Before that.
On 9/11, though, you were at your first
assignment,
duty station.
Yes.
What was that like for you and what changed?
I felt like the whole world just shifted, everything felt like it was turned upside down. And I'll never forget, like we were in the aid station. We were sitting down and I think somebody came running in. It's like there was a plane that crashed into the tower. And we're like, what? What are you talking about? And then everybody, and the aid station at Fort Riley was attached to the barracks. And so we just ran right back into our barracks, into our rooms, which was all on the first floor. And we turned on the TV and we're just watching, just like flabbergasted, just like shocked. And just, I'm pretty sure I had my mouth open the entire time about what exactly was going on. And some of the stuff I think this was national trauma. I'll never forget the people jumping out of the buildings. They showed that on TV. They showed the fires. They showed so many different things. And I never felt so angry and sad at the same time. And I never felt so able to do something about it too. I heard there was people who, right after seeing that, joined the military. I think there was a rise in recruitment thereafter because people wanted to defend their homeland. And I was there and I was like, okay, well, if we're going to do anything about it, then let's do it. But what was crazy though was it was still a surprise when they finally deployed us. I figured it was probably coming. I think we probably all did, when are we going to get deployed? And we were planning on going to Fort Irwin for, our NTC. Hopefully I'm not mixing it up. National Training Exercise, or I'm always getting the NCT and NTC mixed up here. But anyway, we're supposed to go out there for Fort Irwin for, our yearly training and stuff. And we're all packing up. We're like, okay, we got this. And I was like, okay, I only got like maybe a year and some change left over before I'm out. And I was like kind of eyeing getting back into college and finally achieving the dream that I so wanted, that I felt like I put over to the side because I learned what it actually took to become a doctor. And I think it was our platoon sergeant who finally came into the aid station is like, we're going to Iraq. And it was like another shock at that moment. Like, this is actually happening.
Were you on a 3-year or 4-year contract?
4-year. 4 year. Ended up being 4.5 years. Because, I got stop loss being out there. I was one of the essential personnel.
Got stuck.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciated that they did pay us some money for getting that extra 6 months, but I was, both upset, but also willing kind of to do my duty because that's what was trained in us, to honor the values of, that leadership card that we all got growing up, or at least in the military when you're going through basic training and stuff like that. That's where I kind of started to learn about values and what they meant and how they can aid you in your life when you are going forward.
Prior to that sergeant coming in and telling you guys were going to deploy,
yeah,
was there a noticeable or a measurable, I'll call it a spin up in the sense, could you sense that things were starting to speed up like, okay, or was it still not even to that point where you're like really clear about when deployment's going to happen?
No, I mean, it was just like absolute surprise. There was like, we were all just prepared to go to the National Training Center and just do our, field exercises and stuff like that. We, especially since, that's going to be, it'll take us amount of time to get deployed, to be out there and to come back. We're like, okay, I guess it's just not happening for us because at least that was my thought, was like, I guess we're not going to get deployed, which, I mean, I didn't even know what to think about that. But then once they told us, I was like, okay. And after the shock, I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's go see what we can do to try to help out our country. Which, I mean, after all that, I left with some reservations, but at the same time, at least I could say that, I did my duty. I signed up, I protected the Constitution, and I think that is what I can be proud of. And I think the proudest thing I could be I hold to my chest now is the thought that I made this sacrifice so other people didn't have to. And, that's what leaves me feeling that I helped in that particular way, at least.
Did you deploy to Afghanistan or Iraq?
Iraq. I did Iraq. I was there from 2003 to 2004. And we were over in Hamadi, Iraq, west of Fallujah, about like 10, 15 minutes west of Baghdad. It was like a 30, 45-minute Humvee ride.
Now, you've gone through all this. Mm-hmm. You're a medic deployed. You have these aspirations of becoming a doctor.
Yeah.
Is there any thought process of, well, let me just stay in the military, see if I can make that a path? Or did you know, obviously you got stop loss and you got held back, but was there nothing that would have kept you in?
Well, I was eyeing that 20-year retirement. It seemed, I can stay here. And one of the big things was like, oh, I can go to school while I'm here. I can get a laptop to do my schooling, and, I can climb up in the ranks and, do all that stuff. But unfortunately, I found out that, what came first, and I should have realized this, was, the Army, the military. Like, yes, you could go to school, but in order to achieve that, you have to get that signed off by your commander. And my commander at the time wouldn't sign off on it. And that just threw me for a loop. I was like, okay, they're keeping me back from the one thing that I wanted to do. The one thing that, even the recruiters said I would be able to do. I think they said it was something called like the Brown Scholarship or something like that, where they would pay for me to go to med school. I was like, oh, I would love to do that. Like, I wouldn't have to worry about the bills, because people always talk about how expensive medical school is.
Is that like an enlisted officer program?
I think so, where they would pay for the medical school, and as long as you're able to kind of, pass the MCAT, all that other stuff, then hey, please, we'll ship you off. You can go get that done. But I couldn't even get the basic schooling done. And it just it left a very sour note. And at that point, I was just like, okay, my time here is kind of drawing to a close, because that was my dream all along. And if I can't achieve that here, then I'm just going to go ahead and just move on with the rest of my life. As soon as my time is done, I'm just going to focus on myself and get that schooling that I want.
I can see both sides of the coin from the Army's perspective.
Yeah.
I would imagine within the community of the medical field, mm-hmm. it's probably a fairly I don't even know. What I'm saying is, because being a doctor means being an officer, that transition of going from enlisted officer is probably more common than maybe a lot of the other units.
Yeah.
But at the same token, they still, at the end of the day, just need medics who can deploy in the field. Yeah. So it does them no good to just start signing off everybody to go to medical school, if that kind of makes sense.
No, it does. And for college too, because I remember one of the things he said the commander said when I asked for it, he's like, well, I need you training. I need you practicing out there. I need you to be ready for if we get deployed.
I still need a medic.
Yeah. And that's essentially what you're saying. Like, so I was like, okay, if that's a priority, then I can't spend I can't do my 20 years here. That's just not what I'm trying to achieve here. While, yes, it's been, in some ways good to learn about medicine and even practice it, through sick call, through learning from, the medical leader we had on staff. Like, all of that was great. It was like magical almost for me to even learn how to do a SOAP note and to, diagnose people, or at least in a way be able to inform enough my medical leader about what potentially is going on with a person, or engage with a patient, and to like talk. I remember, like, to give you an example of what I'm talking about here, I remember this one patient came in and he just did not want to tell me anything about what was going on with them. I was like, so what are you coming in for? They're like, oh, my knee hurts. I'm like, well, when did it start? All this other stuff. I'm asking all the usual questions, and they were just being very oblique about everything. And I was like, okay, look, either like, tell me what's going on. Just like, let me know. I'm not here to judge you. I just want to help you. And when I finally got him to open up, it was something that was like deeply sensitive to him. And, I won't share what it was now, but it was something that I was like, oh my gosh, like I was able to help this person open up. I was able to help them, get them the help that they need. And it felt great. I felt like he trusted me with this information, and I was able to, relay that to my, medical superior, and, got them the care that they needed. So that was like something that reinforced for me, at least, that this is my path. This is my way to be able to contribute back to society and hopefully find something that was going to lead me to a productive life.
So from the time you finally were able to get back to when you actually EAS'd was how long?
So I got, let's see, I think there was like 2004, December 2004 was when I finally left the military. And
what I'm getting at is, it like, did you get back from Iraq and literally a week later you're out of the army?
Or no. When I got back, I was a mess. When I got back, the one thing that sticks out in my head was they had us fill out this questionnaire, kind of asking us questions about, are you having night terrors? Are you, basically all the questions about PTSD. And I was like, I wasn't, I worked in the medical field. I knew what they were asking for. And I just was like, nope, down the line, because I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. You guys held me back long enough from becoming, a doctor, from getting into school and getting my college done. And I also didn't want to go back there. I did my tour of duty. I served my country, and I was scared. Did
it almost feel, if you had answered yes to any of those questions, it might have delayed your ability to get out of the military?
Yes. And that, if I was already in, well, why not do another tour of duty while you're at it? And I was like, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I hate to admit that. It makes me feel weak and cowardly, which feeds a hurt part of me. But that was my truth at the time. And when I said no for everything, I knew it was affecting me, but I didn't know how to deal with it. I was still probably like barely 21 at that point, and couldn't even go back home to my family. I went to go stay at a best friend's place over in San Diego, and I just stayed there for months, and I was just kind of keeping myself away from him, from everybody, kept myself locked away. And then I just sat myself out of it, because I realized, like, I made a promise to people that I was going to become a doctor. I made a promise to myself that I was going to become a doctor, and I wasn't going to just waste my life away just in a corner somewhere hiding from things. And I was like, well, if I deserve this life, if I have this second lease on life and I don't take advantage of it, especially with, the people who gave their lives back over there, and I was absolutely nothing. And I was the worst that I saw in myself, and I was no way in heck going to let that happen. And so I signed up for community college, and I started, pretty much that January in 2005, so I can get a jump start on all this stuff.
Because I believe that aspect of your story is so important. I want to stay on it from an advice perspective on that angle of it. Because I guarantee you're not the first, and you definitely won't be the last to experience that, and for it to have such a profound impact on you. if I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like it was, we'll call it a level of embarrassment, that it impacted me so much that I'm not able to operate, so to speak. You're back here in San Diego. You're withdrawing from your family.
Yeah.
Even though you're living with a friend, you're withdrawing from them.
Yes.
For somebody who might be listening, who's feeling the same thing, going through the same process, was there something significant or a catalyst that pulled you out of that mental funk and said, hey, all right, I need to get my life back in order. I need to get back on the path that I want to get on?
I think for myself, what had come up was just, sorry.
No, take your time, please. Do you want to take a break? Do you want to?
No, I'm good. I just, one of the promises I made to people, and, I told my commander, he passed away over there, Johnny Tipton.
While you were deployed?
Yeah, while I was deployed. He got hit by a mortar. We used to get mortared pretty frequently over at Camp Junction City, as we used to call it. And it was a day when I was out on guard duty on MSR Mobile, and we were trying to, prevent the terrorists from planting IEDs and stuff on the road. And that's when our camp got hit the hardest by the mortars and stuff. And that's when he got hit and he passed away. He was only a few weeks out from getting back to his own family. His replacement was there. We were about to do the change of colors, all that other stuff. And I think it shocked everybody what happened. And, I had conversations with him. I told him what I was thinking about doing after I got out. My dream was to go into UCLA medical school and to, become a doctor that way. And he's like, well, don't ever give up on that dream, and, just do your best to try to get there. And I don't know, I think in part it was him, like he died over there. He wasn't able to see his family. And there was this lingering thought that it shouldn't have been him that died. It should have been me. Who was I coming back to? Yes, I had brothers and sisters, but I didn't have a wife and kids that I had to take care of. So I felt less than. Like, his sacrifice was so much more and my sacrifice was so minimal. And I kept trying to contrast those two things to make sense of what was very much a chaotic situation where there was no logical sense that could be made out of any of it. And when I guess kind of saw that for myself, and that the path of where I was going, I was like, I can't. And I think it was also my friend who also was like, hey, what are you going to do? And he was like, well, just apply. And it might have been some family members as well. I have to be honest, it's very fuzzy back then because I was just so out of it. There was probably other people who helped to push me a little bit to get me to sign up and to get that done. But if there was anything that I would definitely, contribute to that too, was kind of that thought about what my life was at that moment. And, I think you've heard this time and time again, especially for people who are coming home from from wars. You get that feeling of a second lease on life, and that you're going to try to make the most out of this. You're going to have a wife, you're going to have kids, you're going to live life to its fullest. So I was going from that stage of, all of a sudden I'm back safe, I'm back home. I don't have to be scared anymore. Or, I'm not going to get blown up at any one particular second, or no one's going to try to take a pot shot at me or try to kill me, or they're going to kidnap me or torture me, or, all these crazy thoughts that were just filling my mind back then. It's just like this automatic vacuum I entered into as soon as I got back home. And then once that vacuum, the dust kind of settled and I was getting back into normal everyday life, then that feeling of like, holy shit, I made it. Like I'm alive. And that's when I started to think about, what was I doing again? And I was like, oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to get into this. So it was both thinking and probably pushing from family and friends who I was still able to talk to because I stayed at my friend's house. And they were like, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I'm sure they also wanted me to get out of their house. If I'm being honest. Because I was motivation. Yeah, they had some motivation. I was sleeping on their couch. They're like, hey, man, when you going? But I'm sure they would have let me stay much longer. But at the same time, I was like, okay, I got to keep moving forward. And that's when, my brother and sister, let me stay at their place while I was going to school. Over in the Inland Empire, because that's where I went to school, was Riverside Community College. That's the one, that's who took me. And I just try to push myself as much as possible. But this is where, oh my God.
Do you look forward to that first cup of coffee of your morning? Then Blue Line Roasting is the choice for you. They're a Tennessee-based, law enforcement-owned company, roasting small batches of premium coffee, fresh, within 48 hours of your ordering. And they ship it fast so it doesn't sit around getting stale. From Patriot, their light roast, to Failure Drill, their dark roast. Whole bean or ground, they've got you covered. But Blue Line Roasting is more than just good coffee. A portion of every purchase goes to support law enforcement families who are dealing with line-of-duty injury or loss. So your morning routine becomes something bigger. Grab a single bag, try a sampler pack, or get a subscription set up so you're never caught without it. Also, shipping is always free. And for the listeners of this podcast, use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your order. Head over to bluelineroasting.com and make your morning count.
So I had this like want to do right, to achieve as much as possible, because I wanted to prove to myself that my life, it was worth something, that I was worth something, that despite all the things that I felt like I did horribly wrong in the war, that I can make up for it. And that I can prove to myself, to other people, that, you know, I'm not the monster that I see myself to be. I'm not some horrible person. I'm not a coward. I'm not a piece of shit. I'm not just nothing, and something that should just be kind of thrown off of this earth and, you know, allowed to be sucked up into kind of the vacuum of space. I'm somebody who's worth something, and I wanted to prove that so bad to myself that I just try to make school work as much as possible. And guess what? When I took my first class that I thought was going to be the easiest, English, because I loved, you know, reading, love writing, all this stuff, I was a bit rusty, and I got to be in that class. And I swear I was never more angry at myself in my life, because I was like, what are you doing? You made promises to your commander. You made promises to other people. You told yourself you're going to do this, and now you're going to waste this. You're going to be like you were in high school, or you're just going to go ahead and just slide on through and not even try your hardest to make this a possibility. And I talked to myself and I told myself, okay, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to fucking tackle this stuff. Let me know if I'm swearing too much. Okay, good. You're going to get probably a tirade here, but I was like, fuck this. I'm going to push through. I'm going to get this done as much as I possibly can. I'm going to prove to everybody, I'm prove to myself that I'm able to get this done. And I killed it. And there was parts of me that was wanting to pull away from everybody. There was parts of me that didn't want to interact with anybody, that didn't want to I just didn't feel safe out in the open. I didn't want to be around people because I don't know if I could trust them. I don't know if they were going to like stab me in the back, or if they're going to show up with blood on their hands, or whatever the case may be. And I just saw that I couldn't fall prey to this. And I think it helped because the core of me, I was a social person. I was somebody who loved interacting with people whenever I was given the chance to. I loved being able to take care of people. And when I wasn't following that line, something felt absolutely wrong. And I was able to pick up on that and to listen to that. And so there was a part of me that was like, don't talk to anybody. And I was like, wait, why don't I want to talk to anybody? What am I thinking? And I would pop up in my head, well, they're dangerous. I'm like, what do you mean they're dangerous? That doesn't make any sense. And so I would be like, nope, you don't want me to talk to those people? I'm going to go talk to them. Oh, you don't want me to like start up a study group and go up to the front of the class and say, hey, I'm here to get an A. Does anybody else want to get an A with me? Then, hey, let's start a study group. Here's my phone number. Here's my email address. I did this for pretty much all the classes that I could, because I was like, I need help getting my A's right now, but I also want to help better people too. I was trying to live to my values, even though I didn't necessarily understand them as fully as I do now. But I was able to at least try to honor that and try to work with it. But that's where the military helped me to gain that discipline, gain the motivation to try to push forward, even though there was so many parts of me that were trying to hold me back and trying to keep me safe. And I leaned into that. It's the same thing we did in war, right? It's where you were in a very dangerous place. You knew if you stepped outside of that wire, you could potentially get blown up. You can die. You can get shot at. You can get kidnapped or tortured, whatever your thoughts were going to be about what was going to happen in that particular run. But I kind of leaned on that. I leaned on that, what was taught to me of like kind of disconnect a little bit, push forward, see what was possible, accomplish the mission. I gave myself that mission of becoming a doctor. I wrote it on my wall, had a little whiteboard. I said, I will be a physician. I will be a doctor. And I always saw that every day. And that's part of what pushed me. And well, that and the promise I made to my commander.
Was the self-inflicted punishment of beating yourself up because you got a B, was the desire to get an A or A's because you knew what school you wanted to get into and you needed the best grades? Or did you perceive it as anything below an A, I'm not giving my full effort and I'm not adhering to my promise to my commanding officer that I was going to push and do the best I could?
I mean, it was pretty much the latter. I was trying to show that I was worthy of this life, that I was somebody who was going to, turn things around, and that I was going to be living to that promise I made to him, I made to other people, and I wasn't going to waste this life, and
that was your tangible way of showing validation for being alive.
Yes, for being alive and not dying over there, and not taking the place of people who did die over there. Because I kept having that thought pop into my head of like, you should have been the one. You should have died over there. Like, what are you doing here right now? Who are you? How come you didn't, jump in front of that mortar? Like, as if that was even freaking possible. I wasn't even in the same place, but I so badly wanted to go back, and I wasn't able to because we had our own mission to accomplish, But yeah.
Was your CO from your unit the only one you lost?
No, there was other people as well that were lost, from our Alpha company, Bravo company as well. But he was the one that I was like
most connected to.
Exactly. And it was still always a surprise when, we heard about, oh, this person got blown up by IED or something else. But it was still a bit removed, right. At least for my mind, I didn't want to get too close to it because it felt like there was too much. And those ceremonies that you have at the end, whenever somebody did pass, the boots, the Kevlar, the M16, their dog tags hanging off, like, that was like when that happened to my commander and we had to be at that ceremony for him. I don't know. It was just so much that was going through my, that young man's head who didn't understand why this had to happen to such a man and how come I wasn't the one. I mean, I didn't have, again, like that same thought cycle of like, I didn't have a wife and kids. Why didn't I pass away? Why didn't I, like, as if I was like not doing what I needed to say that I was somebody of worth, and I was trying to make up for it by achieving what I could, at least for the grades then. There was a part of me that was thinking I needed to get that for med school, but I mean, that seemed something like so off in the future that I was like, I don't even know if they're going to want to take me. Why would they take me, somebody who's not like the most studious person, somebody who didn't do that great in high school? And I just was like, why would they take me? That was something, but at least I can focus right here, right now on that particular part. But I mean, I'm glad, like, when I did a work study, just to kind of give you, like, what else was a driver for this. When I did a work study to try to make some extra money on the side, I worked at the Corona Vet Center. While I was there, I got asked those questions again. And I'm glad they did. Because they wanted me to see, like, hey, do you need potential help? And I did at that moment. And I did try to get help. I did try to get therapy at the VA. I got diagnosed. And, I didn't, like, even though they kept telling me over and over again, it's going to hurt a lot when you start therapy. Like, it's going to get worse and it's going to get really bad. But if you stick it out, you're going to get to a much better place. And they were right. It hurt so fucking much. It was bringing up so many different memories. I was talking about things that I just didn't want to talk about anymore. The therapists were like, well, why do you see things this way? Or why do you wake up screaming? Or what are these night terrors about? And I kept trying to like break it down for them. And I mean, you know how things are with the VA. Like when I started, I think I went through 2 or 3 different therapists. Like they were changing therapists every once in a while. That definitely didn't help. The medications they were giving me were like getting me into this like zombified state where yes, I was able to function, but I didn't have the same drive or want to engage with other people. So I was losing that connection to myself to get the work done that I needed to. And so another part of this was the fact that I was like, well, okay, I got these problems. They gave me a few tools, but I still don't feel like if I do this all the way that I possibly can, that it's not going to be the same thing as getting, all the accolades that I could through school. Like, and that's in part because like it got so bad at one point when I was going through therapy. Like, I'll never forget this. I got out of a therapy session and I don't know, I think I was talking about this what happened to this one Iraqi policeman. And I was walking around campus and I could see that man's look of pain and horror that was etched on his face. And I could see it in everybody's faces. And sometimes other people's faces would turn into that face. And it would be their face, but it would be with teeth bared and suffering. And I couldn't look people in the face. And every time I looked up, I would see their face. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Why am I seeing this? And I felt so crazy. I felt like I was losing my mind. And I was like, no, I promised. I made a promise that I was going to become a doctor. I made a promise that I wasn't going to fuck this up. And I stopped therapy. And I really wish I hadn't. I really wish I didn't. But they gave me enough tools to be able to still work through it, to get to school, to meet the rigors of getting to community college, of getting through, University of California, Riverside. I graduated with honors from UCR. I got a Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience because, again, I love anatomy and physiology. I love medicine. I love science. I mean, all these different things. I knew I couldn't be a psychiatrist. I knew I couldn't be a psychologist. There's no way I was going to be diagnosing anybody with a mental illness when I had one myself. I'm like, I'm crazy enough. I don't know if I want to spread my crazy to other people or pick up their crazy. But I think I did want to learn about this. I wanted to understand why it was that I was having these nightmares, why it was that I would sometimes enter into this kind of zombified state when I'm out and about, and which was a protective mechanism because there was so much emotion, so many memories that were running through me and the flashbacks that were happening. And I learned a lot about how great of a pattern recognizer the brain can be and the amazing plasticity that is a human mind is capable of. It gave me some hope. It also at least informed me about what was going on within me and helped me feel a bit more prepared in regards to kind of what the next steps were going to be. And I thought I was ready for it. But very obviously, I guess I wasn't. So
there's no way that a young man, a young woman at basically 18, 19 years old can go to combat, experience what you experience, the loss of people you're directly connected with, and it not have just a overwhelming impact. Because, and I do not mean this in a derogatory way, you were a baby.
Yeah. No, I agree.
When you got deployed, you were a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Not just you. Every other young man and woman who got deployed, who was 18, 19 years old.
Oh, yeah.
With basically no life experience.
Mm-hmm.
No way to truly grasp how harsh war can actually be.
Oh, yeah.
You played video games as a kid. I mean, you respawned and it kept going.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in the real world.
Oh, no.
And there really is no way to truly prepare somebody for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing that I hear when you tell your story is, though somebody told you, hey, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Going through therapy is going to kick your ass.
Mm-hmm.
But I could also imagine too, again, going back to being that young kid, man, I'm just tired of this.
Yeah.
I'll equate it to being in a boxing match.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm just sick and tired of the damn body punches.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take a knee and I'm going to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
I've not gone through it, but the way you explained it, I could totally imagine no, I don't want to go in and yank this fucking scab back off again.
Yeah. 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 It's like debriding the wound, if someone has an affected wound, you're not going to just leave it be. You're going to try to clean up as much as possible. It's going to hurt like a motherfucker, but that's okay because you're going to get to a place of healing at least. And that was the part that I just wasn't willing to accept. And I thought because I was doing so good in school that, maybe I don't really need it at this moment. I was trying to look for any reason really to try to be look how great I'm doing here. Look how good this is. Look how great this is. I don't need therapy anymore. I was trying to convince myself that that was just not what was needed at that moment. And what was needed for me, at least to prove that I was worthy of this life, was to try to get the best grades that I can. That kept being my mission at that time.
Coming out of UCR with your bachelor's, what was your plan?
I mean, it was medical school. It was applying to multiple medical schools. I did everything that I could to get the support that I needed. That's pretty much my whole story here. I got so much help. It felt like somebody, like the community, put me on their shoulders and helped me to kind of reach the stars here. UCR had a great disabilities office where, because I was diagnosed with PTSD, they helped me to make sure I got the classes I needed. They helped me to make sure everything was set up for me to succeed. I joined, they had a medical scholars program over there in UCR, where I worked with them to better understand the rigors of what I was the career I was trying to get into and what I could do to prepare. And I just got so much help from UCR, and I don't know, I applied to so many different med schools, at least for whatever the I used to call it the FAP, but it's like it's basically the FAP. It's like the free access program. I can't remember what the acronym means, but it's basically because I was coming from an impoverished background, they were going to pay for so many applications, and I was like, I'm going to use up all of them. And I did use up all of them. I applied to a bunch of different med schools, and I remember talking to my mentor at the time, Albert Chavez. He was helping me to apply. He's like, oh, which schools did you apply to? And I told him which ones I applied to. He's like, you didn't apply to Harvard Medical School? And I was like, come on, man. Are you serious? Are you serious right now? He's like, what's the price for you to apply for that school? He's like, I think it was like $30 at the time or something like that. And I was like, it's that much. He's like, well, here, he basically, was going to give me the money. He's like, just apply. I'm going to give you the money. I was like, no. He's like, no, just do it. I'm serious. Just try. I was like, okay, fine. And so I applied, and I was just surprised, It was, it confused me so much to be accepted to so many different med schools. I think it was like 12 or 13 that I got accepted into. And I was just like so overwhelmed. But then at the same time, it made me feel like, okay, people do see the potential in me. People are able to pick up on the type of person that I am and what I'm capable of. And I don't know, it left me kind of rocked, because there was always this part of me that always was telling me how much of a piece of shit I am, how much of a coward I am, how I should have died over there. All these very kind of cycling of thoughts that kept trying to keep me in my place based off of the horrors of war that I had lived through. And I was just trying my best to kind of stay ahead of them as much as I could be. But I couldn't run forever, unfortunately. And that's where I ran into problems at med school, was the reactivation of my PTSD to such a severe level that I got to the point of almost killing myself.
I want to ask something because of the words that you're using. And if you don't want to answer this, we'll slide right by it.
Yeah.
You've used the reference piece of shit a couple times.
Yeah. Was
that self-imposed, or was there somebody in your life that called you a piece of shit as you were growing up?
No, like my mom and dad, like my dad, like I said, he didn't engage with us too much. He taught us what we needed to do the chores at the house and stuff like that. He never really called me a piece of shit. He just didn't engage with us too much. My mom, she loved us. She took care of us the best that she could. She was worried I was using drugs at one point and asked me about it, but that was about it, And
I only wanted a Pepsi.
Yeah. And for myself, that was all coming from the inside. That was all coming from the inside. That was coming from the
That's just
traumas.
how, when you looked in the mirror, that's what you saw.
Oh yeah, I saw the worst of humanity within me, but I also saw the most despicable parts of other people as well. So it was such a twisted. I still have remnants of that twisted view now, but it was such a twisted view of the world that I just almost like I had to just compartmentalize that as much as I could. Otherwise, I would fall prey to it. I'd get sucked up by it. And then I would also end up leaning too much on, some type of substance, I had such a harsh stance against drugs, marijuana. I thought, I guess I could thank Dare for this, if I start doing all this stuff, I'm going to end up on the streets. I'm going to, I'm just going to end up being crazier than I already am. But I just had that kind of harshness towards myself. Maybe it was something that I picked up in, the military during basic and stuff like that. You got to set your standards, set your goals, set the mission. And if you don't accomplish that, then what the fuck went wrong? And what the fuck? It's like the AAR, like, what do we got to do better to, meet the metrics we needed to, because that's not acceptable. And that's what I did for myself. That's what I got to give credit to the military for, is they were able to give me that discipline to get that done. It did help me get very far, but when it comes to tools, you don't want to use the same tool for everything, because then you're going to, and like I did for myself, I ended up hurting myself in various ways. Did you end up accepting Harvard? Yes, I got stuck between UCSF and Harvard Medical School. And I laugh about it now because I'm just tired of crying about it. I kind of wish I did end up going to UCSF. I'm sure they would have had a wonderful disabilities office, which would have been very supportive for the condition I lived with. But I was also very honest about what I lived with in my personal statement that I gave to them. But how I also tried to use that to make myself a better person, because I did try to use it. I mean, that's what helped me get all the grades and stuff like that. But beyond that, I did end up going to Harvard Medical School because, remember during that time, we were going through a recession. We had the housing, the housing bubble blew up at that point.
So this is 08, 09, that time period?
2000, 2008, 2009. Oh my gosh, yeah, around that time. And I was trying to figure out, because I started med school in 2010, and sorry, I'm just appreciate the timeline, because like I said, it's all it's all a blur in my head when it comes to dates and times. But yeah, that's when I was trying to figure it out, and I ended up going with them because they're going to offer pretty much a free ride for it, and on top of that, I was still going to be able to tap into the GI Bill a little bit with that yellow ribbon that came out, kind of the extension for it. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'll be a fool not to go there, especially with, one of the best medical schools in the nation, if not the world. And I was just like,
I don't know. It's what, maybe number 7, 8. Okay, I'll give you top 10.
Top 10.
I'll loosely give you top 10.
That's where my mind was at the time. But I honestly, I don't even know where it's at right now.
I could. The one thing I have heard about Harvard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but if it is true, I think it's really cool. As long as you meet the entrance requirements, they tailor your tuition based on your financial ability. So some of these kids who are coming from very impoverished families, but if they can meet all of the entrance requirements, and they've got so much money in their donor system.
Oh my gosh.
And their alumni system. But if they tailor it to the person, I think that's amazing, because what they're saying is that we believe in you.
Yeah.
And you ultimately going through this program are going to be a great representation of Harvard.
That's so crazy you say that, because that's pretty much what they told us, when we got accepted. Like, you guys are going to be successful. You're going to be amazing no matter what. So we're just picking you up because that's what we see in you. And that just, I don't know, it felt like that was the guard against all the worst thoughts in my head. Because I was like, they see me, they see my achievements. They see all the hard work I put into this. And it felt good. It was confusing, but it felt good. And to get those calls, I remember some of the calls I got from different medical schools, I would end up crying because I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that all these people were calling me back and were accepting me, but it just didn't make sense at that time. But I still took it, and I still kept that mission in mind. Okay, I'm going to be a doctor. This is what I need to do. This is where I need to go to hopefully make that chance as good as possible for me to make that happen. So
what was the experience like then once you actually got there?
Oh my gosh. It was, talk about celebrating. Oh my God. People, like that first month of being there, it was celebration after celebration. It was, I don't know, it was just so much. To give you an example, I remember one time we were at some restaurant. We packed it full. We packed the whole restaurant up. It was a bunch of medical students who were just happy to be there. We were doing karaoke. Everybody was singing. We were like arm in arm, just like all happy that we finally made it this far. People were even getting up on the tables and dance. They finally had to kick us out of the place because we were breaking too much stuff. And you never would imagine this from Harvard medical students, but hey, we know how to let our hair down. It was a bunch of fun. I'll tell you that. But at a certain point,
that's what everybody says.
I know.
Harvard medical students, man, they know how to let their hair down.
That's what I'm talking about. Because I would always think that, I mean, how's this? I mean, I just did not understand, like, at least for me, I always had this assumption, like, oh, they're like the nerds. They're the people who are like, stuck in the books, and like not people who are gonna like, be that social, or just like they're just so into what they need to do that they're like locked out from everything else. But no, I met some of the most amazing people, some of the most like, these people were geniuses, and I felt like I paled in comparison to a vast majority of my classmates. Like, I was like, what am I even doing here?
When you're working long hours in real conditions with no margin for distraction, you need sunglasses that perform. Every pair is built with polarized UV 400 lenses, anti-reflective technology, and water-repellent coatings. Because clear vision isn't a luxury, it's a requirement. Frontline Optics also understands something most brands don't. Your gear doesn't fail because you're careless. Gear fails because you actually use it. That's why when you break them, and you know you will, they back every pair with a no questions asked replacement program, even on prescription glasses. If you need another reason to buy from Frontline Optics, the company was founded by a firefighter, and every purchase helps support the First Responders Children's Foundation, serving families who have paid the ultimate price. So if you want sunglasses that make sense, go to frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your order. Frontline Optics, built for those who don't get second chances.
And, they talk a lot about that, about where you doubt yourself along the way. The words are failing me right at this moment of the particular term that they have for this. But during one of these celebrations, I'll never forget this. We were at a bar, we were like celebrating again. They called like the first month there, like, I forget, life or something like that, lifestyles or something like that. And I had this drink in my hand, had a cup of ice, and I was just like staring into my drink, and I was thinking about my commander again. I was thinking about the people who passed away there, and I was like, I made it, but they didn't make it. And I started comparing myself again to other people, and I was like, what are you doing here? And I saw everybody laughing and, enjoying themselves, dancing, and I'm like, I don't know, like it just blew my mind that they're here. And I was like, don't you know the horrible things going on right now? Like, why are you laughing over here? There's people fucking dying over there. There's people who are getting fucking eviscerated and fucking suffering the worst moment of their lives in war. And we're over here just laughing and, chuckling it up and pretending we don't have a care in the world. And I just was like getting disgusted with myself. I was just getting disgusted with them. And I was like, what is going on? And I think that's where things kind of turned for me, where I was just like, what's happening? And I don't know. I just, it was something that kept brewing within me. And, I started drinking a bit more. And when I started drinking, what happens at those times, the stories start to come out. And I started to kind of share with some of my classmates some of the things that happened over there. And, they did their best. I mean, they're there to become doctors themselves, and they did their best to kind of take care of me. But things like took a very bad turn for the worse once I got into my second year of medical school. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want me to get too much into that one. That's a story that could take hours.
I would say that, again, I'll put you in the mindset of the person driving in their car listening to your story. If there's a component of it that you feel is really important for another veteran, another first responder to hear as it relates to dealing with trauma, then please, I would say, let's go down that road. There's a part of me that in a weird way feels bad to have you tell the stories, because I understand that I don't care how far removed from it, there is that component of re-ripping the scab off.
Yeah.
And so I will respect your desire of whether or not there's a component of it that you want to talk about. If you want to just move on from it, obviously at the end of this, I'll make your connection available. So if there's something that in your story somebody really wants to know a little bit more, maybe they reach out to you offline. But before you make the decision, I'll ask a question. You mentioned that you were between UCSF and Harvard. It came down to those two.
Yeah.
Did you look into either one of them as far as their veteran programs and what was going to be available to you as it relates to dealing with your trauma and wanting that access or help point before you made the decision to obviously go to Harvard?
No, yeah. This is where I kick myself, because I didn't understand how good I had it when I was at UCR. That special access office that they had there, how much they helped me. Was
Tammy there then?
For UCR? Oh my gosh.
Was she in charge of the veteran program?
I honestly, I can't remember the name of the person who was there. Then this was like between 2005 to 2007, I think it was. But whoever that lady was that helped me, oh my God, it was incredible. Like, I felt like she would bend over backwards just to try to, make things happen for me, to make sure I was able to make the most. And I mean, again, like, this is why I felt like I was supported so much. It was not something I did on my own. I got so much help. And there were some times, especially when I was in medical school, where I thought I was on my own and that I was only going to be able to get this done on my own. But this is where I perhaps have to do more thinking. But I think that's one thing I took for granted. There we go. I took for granted was the fact that I got so much help there. I was just like, I just kind of assumed that was going to be the case. I thought that it's HMS. Why wouldn't they have a disabilities office? Why wouldn't they, have a place where they would get you the help that you needed if you did have a disability? But I learned that when it comes to medicine, things are a bit different in the culture of medicine and how it is that they regard people with mental illnesses or a particular type of disabilities. And I'm glad to say that when it comes to Harvard Medical School, they do have a disabilities office now, but they didn't have one when I went into there. And UCSF, I mean, they're mandated by the state of California. And much like it's a UC school, like UCR, they would have that, particular office set up, and they would have been able to give me that help. But I didn't. And that's something I should have kept in mind when I was trying to make a choice between one school or another, was to make and research and actually look into that. And it's not, this is where I think at that point, I would have been like, oh, you're weak for leaning on that. You're already getting to a place where very few people are able to get into, and now you're going to start asking for this additional assistance. What if they take that as like, you're not strong enough to be here then, to ask those type of questions? I probably would have asked myself that, but that's just me hypothesizing too as well. But I mean, I don't mind sharing this stuff, because like, if there's anything that people could potentially learn from my life, if I can be a warning sign for other people, I'm happy to do that. Learn from my fucking mistakes, because I don't want people to end up at the wrong side of life, either, in their absolute kind of pit of misery or no longer in this world. I don't want that for anybody. So if they can learn from my mistakes, I'm happy to talk about that. And what happened in that second year was that, I was open to them about what I lived with, about having this disability of PTSD. And they assigned me. So second year of med school, you had to do psychiatry. And I was scared. I was a little worried. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And I didn't know who I could talk to about it. I was like, should I mention this to anybody? What if I tell somebody and they're like, well, if you have PTSD, what are you doing here? Not everybody's meant to be a doctor. And that's actually what they told me when things got at my worst. Like, not everyone's meant to be a doctor. That's exactly what they told me later on. But at that moment, since I wasn't sure, I was like, okay, well, just stick it out. It's only for a few months. Like, you don't have to tell anybody. Just keep it between just myself. Maybe I'll talk to, friends about it and some other stuff, but I don't need to tell the school about it. I should have told the school. I should have been honest. I should have been like, hey, these are my limitations. This is where I need to, get some help with accessibility or accommodations. I should have said all that stuff. And it would have been bad to do that. I think that would have been assigned much more of the school rather than myself, now that I think about it. But back then, they assigned me for psychiatry, for kind of doing evaluation, psych evals on people. They assigned me to the inpatient ward at the VA in Brockton. And I remember when I saw my name on that list.
Did they do that because they knew you were a veteran, or is that just happenstance?
It was randomness. They explained to me that it was just a random, setup that they have for the applications. Everyone gets sorted, and then you get added onto the list. And wherever you go, that's where it is. Nobody, picks people and sorts them or anything like that. It's all, done through the computer. And when I saw my name on that list, I felt like a fucking bomb just blew up. I just was like staring at that list, and I was like, oh, fuck. This is my absolute worst nightmare. And like I said, I knew I never would want to go into psychiatry. And I knew that, talking to other veterans about this stuff, it was going to be activating for me, especially with the traumas that I had lived through. Like, it was something that was too close to home. And especially at that particular moment when I was having self-doubts about my capabilities and ability to even become a physician, it sent me down the wrong path. And that moment, again, another turning point. If I would have brought it up to someone, if I would have told one of my mentors, if I would have, said something to somebody, that's the key thing here. If I would have just talked about this with somebody, I could have, could have changed my path in life. And I kept it to myself.
A weird question?
Yeah, please.
You're now 10 plus years removed from all this.
Yes.
With what you know now, could you have actually gone into that with a different mindset and actually made it positive for you and your growth? Do you think that would have been possible?
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, if I would have been more keyed into, what other people were able to do, what were the warning signs for other people? I just got so sucked in. I mean, it's very much true. Like, when it comes to being in medical school, it's like putting a fire hose to your brain. You get blasted with all this information. There's just little time for anything else. And
I just wondered if, from your perspective, if you were in your thought process being, if I'd have gone down that path, it could have done one or two things.
Yeah.
It could have driven you further into your darkness and your despair by talking to all the other people dealing with theirs. Or it could, man, you know what? We're all going through this together.
Yeah.
So that's where I was kind of wondering is, from your mindset, what you think it could have done for you. It sounds like you think it might have potentially ended up positively had you had just had the right voice in your ear to go, hey, don't walk away from this.
Yes.
Don't step back. Yes. Step forward.
Step forward and get help. Talk to people who have been through this, because at that point I thought group therapy was garbage. Like, there's no way in heck I was ever somebody who was going to get anything out of group therapy. That was bullshit. I would have gotten so much out of, and I did get so much out of group therapy, because I got to hear where other people were at in their lives, what they messed up on, what I could potentially do better, how different people in different stages of their life are able to accomplish different things. And I wish I had participated in that. I wish I had done that even before I got into medical school, because that would have helped me out so much. So that's why I mention these things, because I suffered the most pain and injury and damage in my life because I kept it within. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't say anything to anybody. I kept my head down. I tried my best to push through it and to kind of use what the military taught me, was just accomplish the mission. No matter what gets in your way, you just push on through and you get that sucker done as soon as you possibly can. And then you move on to the next mission after that. And that's what I did with the school before. But that same trick is not going to work here, because there was just too much of a demand, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. I mean, whatever you want to toss into that mix there, it was all coming together up into this point of where I was going to either meet it or I was going to end up on the side of the road. So that's what ended up happening too. I did go do that. I went to go talk to somebody, and it kind of filled me up with kind of the most fear about what was going to happen. And it did. It reignited my PTSD because, again, like I could talk about this for hours, but just to move things along, because I ran into that problem. I kept it to myself. My activations got so bad, I started having flashbacks. There was one point when I was running through the school, running down the steps, jumping down the stairs because I could have sworn to God I was about to get blown up in that freaking med school by an IED, by an explosion, by a fucking mortar that was coming through the window right at that fucking moment. I could hear the tank treads. I could hear the explosions. Everything was flying through my head. And the only safe place was to get the fuck out of there, get the fuck back home, and then just bury myself under whatever fucking cover that I could potentially could. That's how bad I got. And I say that because I wasn't getting the help that I needed. And they did allow me time off to, my medical leave to try to fix myself. But I'll tell you what, to try to fix myself in just 1 year time, that was not going to happen. That was never in the cards. It's taken me now years and years of therapy, of learning how to see myself, of medication interventions, all these different things to get me to where I'm at right now, where I can talk about these things in a manner where I don't just fall apart and just kind of lose my mind and I'm kind of torn to shreds right after this. I'm still going to feel like crap after this, if I'm being honest. But at the same time, it's worth it because if I can share this story and help other people, then that's fine. I'll make that sacrifice so that way other people can get to their better place. But after that, things started falling apart. My life started falling apart. I was engaged to be married to somebody. That fell apart. I just didn't even know where my life was going to turn. And that's when I came back to California for a little while, trying to figure out what was going to be next. And I met my now wife at that point. And this is somebody who I was friends with before. We were friends at UCR. That's where we met. We lost contact for a little bit, but we were able to kind of, get back in contact when I came back home. I was reaching out to people because I was just so lost at that point. And she was somebody, actually we were for each other, somebody we felt like we could trust and share and be honest with each other about where our life has been. And at this point, I was basically having to make a choice between my dream of being a doctor or staying alive and keeping my sanity. And it was such a tear between the two. And I made such a hard fight to make sure that I was able to make it happen. And eventually I had to go the way of focusing on my mental health, on stepping away from getting an MD. Instead, I got my master's of medical science, which I'm glad I was still able to get because of all the time that I spent to try to make it work. I did learn quite a lot. It helps to kind of, give me the knowledge that I have now to be able to speak about these things as well. And once I got back home, or I should say, once I ended up kind of stepping away from medical school, wrote my letter, that's when I was kind of at the worst of the worst. I was sold on the fact that I was a piece of shit. I was sold on the fact that I was nothing. I was gaining weight. I was getting close to 200 pounds, especially with the medications that they had me on and stuff like that. And I don't know, my wife was telling me hey, you got to do something about this. She was and I was getting help at the VA previously. At one point, the VA even told me I don't know what to do with you. I'm not sure what more I can do to help you. Which I should have just at that point asked for another therapist, if I'm being honest at that point. But I was so scared of opening up again to somebody else. I didn't want to tell everybody else, someone else, about the fucking bullshit memories that were flowing to me. I gotta start back and go. Yes. And I was fuck that. And that's another thing I wish I would have done differently. I should have asked for a different therapist. When things weren't working out as they should have been, if I wasn't making forward progress in the way that, yes, it's going to be painful, but at least I was making baby steps forward, even maybe a few steps back, but at least making some forward momentum into a better place, then I needed to ask for somebody else. That's another piece of advice I wish I would have told myself back then. It's okay to try to make another go with somebody else. That's okay. It doesn't mean you're a failure. That's how I thought I was going to be. Oh my God, I can't do this. I can't get this right. I'm a piece of shit. Look at this. Can't even fucking get myself fixed. So I always paint it as my own problem and not so much, the person I'm working with. Doesn't mean they're a horrible person. Maybe they're just not a match for me.
That's exactly where I was going with, or in my mind, therapy is so much about personalities. A lot of the people from our communities, their default is, I want to speak to another veteran or I want to speak to another former first responder. Mm-hmm. That's not always the best.
Yes.
Sometimes it's the and I'm not making any generic, it's the old guy who never served a day in his career, but he's going to ask you the right questions.
Yes.
And he's going to take you down the path the right way.
Yes.
So yes, go to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're, and I don't necessarily want to, say if the first time, but maybe if you flat out don't connect on that first session, go to somebody else.
Yes.
Or if you try a couple times, you're like, it's just not getting there for me. Don't feel like, well, shit, therapy doesn't work.
Yes. Don't. Oh my gosh. Don't be like me, because that's what it felt like during the medical leaves, where I'm just like, therapy doesn't work for me. Therapy doesn't work for me. I keep getting like, yes, I was. What I couldn't see was like I was making some headway, but I just was like, I'm not good enough to be able to get through school. I'm not, and that's what I kept using as like some measure of like success of what I felt like I should be capable of, which is, again, that's a bullshit metric, because I just needed to get the fuck out of my mind and get into a place where I'm in a shared reality with everyone else, instead of this own internal reality where I'm living just through the terrors again of what it was like to be back over there. But I think when my wife was finally able to tell me, like, because I couldn't go outside. I was stuck inside. Anytime I went out, I would have, activations of my PTSD. Couldn't even go to a supermarket with her because people would get too close and I started shaking. I started having panic attacks. I had to go back to the car and I felt so defeated each and every time. I couldn't even do very basic things, and I had to rely on her so much. And finally, she, God bless her heart, was honest with me. I think this is one of the things that helped me out the most, was that if you can lean on, for whoever that person is, whoever is suffering and the people who are connected to that person, the more you can hold on to that value of integrity, it can really turn things around. It hurt like a motherfucker to hear that from my wife, that I don't know how much longer I can do this, but it scared me enough that I could lose another person that I loved about, that I ended up calling home base. And home base was recommended to me by the VA, actually, because I needed couples therapy, because I felt like my relationship was falling apart, which it most definitely was. And they told me that there was a 2 or 3 month wait list for the couples therapy. And they were like, well, if you go to home base, they'll probably be able to see you much quicker than that. And I'm glad they did, because I went over there. And this is part of why, I'm here to kind of speak also on behalf of Wounded Warrior Project, because they've given me so much support, so much help, that I just want to pay them back in kind as well. But that therapy I got at home base, it really kind of kicked things off for me. They, when I was there, I got paired up with a couples therapist. They also told me when I was there, like, hey, I think we have a good fit for you for an individual therapist if you want to try individual therapy there. And you remember what my therapist said, like, I don't know how I can help you. And I was like, well, fuck that. I'm not going to anybody else. But they're like, just give it a try. If it's not a good fit, it's like you said, if they're a good fit, then perfect. You got to find the person that fits you. And I didn't believe that lady for a second. I was like, there's no way in hell that what she's telling me is true. And I'm so fucking glad she got me to talk me into seeing this person, because that first therapist I met up with, he helped me out so much that even the things that I had repressed so far, he was able to help me to really confront those things and acknowledge them. And I wasn't able to fully accept them, but I was at the very least able to see them for what they were. And that was only through the help of them, and really just a variety of different people. They had paired me up with a social worker. I had my couples therapist. I went through a program that they called the ICP, the Intensive Clinical Program. That was great because it really kicked off my kind of therapy journey that I went on. I really made therapy my full-time job. I had to basically do like individual therapy, couples therapy, group therapy. I did a variety of different types of group therapy, and it all just got me kind of into this place where I was like, okay, I'm working on myself. I'm pushing myself forward. And I had to do it step by step. Like there was something called in vivo therapy. It's basically prolonged exposure therapy. And when I did this, they were like, first, we're just going to have you sit in the waiting room. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why would you just have me sit? I sit there when I come into my appointments. This sounds like a load of crock. What are you fucking talking about here? Sit in the fucking waiting room. But they're like, just sit there. That's all you have to do. Just sit there and just be there. And I was like, okay, I mean, all right, fuck it. I mean, yeah, let's go see what happens. And I didn't, sorry, I'm trying to like not both laugh and cry at this. But
Is it kind of like, I've heard the story Jordan Peterson talks about introducing his client to a vacuum cleaner. And it starts out with literally, hey, we're not even going to plug it in. It's just going to sit in the room with us.
Yeah.
You know, because there's these anxieties and these fears, and it involved a vacuum cleaner or something. And then pretty soon it progresses to, okay, we're just going to plug it into the wall this time.
Yes.
And it's just these little baby steps.
Yes.
But our worst problem is we get impatient.
Yes. Yes. I'm like, I want to get fixed now. I want to get back to living life. I want to get back to a point where I'm not like scared of everything. Everything not setting me off. And when I was sitting there, I think this is one of the things that I didn't realize or even acknowledge was how difficult it was to be present. That was one of the hardest things for me. And when I was sitting in that, office by myself with nothing that I was ahead of me, where I had no goal but just to sit there, that's when the memory started to come in. That's when I started to remember certain things. That's when that's basically when I was starting to get flashbacks again. I was starting to get scared, and I was like, "Oh God, what's happening now?" They would call it the subjective units of distress. My SUDs would go up, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And this is what they told me about it. And I was like, "Okay, just sit with it. It's okay. Maybe lean on some of your DBT skills, your dialectical behavioral therapy skills." And I was able to use some of those things, and little by little, I got used to sitting in the waiting room. And then after that, I went out to coffee shop, or I went to go just stand out in public. And each of these things helped me to get into a place where I became kind of habituate to what's going on around me, and not have my brain immediately jump to like, you're in danger. You're somewhere where you shouldn't be.
So a simple analogy is it's getting yourself accustomed to being able to sit in the quiet.
Yes. Exactly. And I think that's one of the hardest things, especially when your brain automatically just wants to pick up on any little bit of pattern that it can and take you and remind you how fucked up life can be. That's the pure and simple of it. And once I was able to get through all that stuff, it was years and years of therapy that I've been through to even get to this point. But it was not just that. I mean, the therapy was just a small part of what was necessary. Another big part of this was engaging socially, because every shred of my being at that point was like, you got to stay the fuck away from people. People are fucked up. They will do some of the worst things to you. And it's all comparing to what happened in the war. And if you stay away from them, you'll be safe. No one's going to hurt you. No one's going to activate the memories. You get to pretend your life is okay. You can focus on just feeding yourself. You can focus on just making your paycheck, whatever the case may be. But when I began to socialize and began to engage more, that's where they had these free events where I can go be with other veterans, begin to kind of get myself out there. It's again like that in vivo practice of getting back out there and seeing that life isn't as fucked up and dangerous as I thought it was. That helped me to see that I can enjoy life in different ways. Yes, it's not exactly like how it is for people who have never gone through war or have never had to see the most fucked up shit in their life, but at least I can find some measure of comfort, of contentment, and not necessarily have to suffer. So as I began going through that, I did different things like Wounded Warrior projects, such as like a Soldier Ride, which that one really put me to kind of testing my limits with being able to understand what I'm capable again of, which is like, kind of these multi-day rides where I'm doing like, I think it was like 15, 20 miles a day or something like that. And just seeing one thing that was like a turning point for me, I remember was when we were in Ithaca, New York. And they had the whole town out there, it felt like. We were at the city hall, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, they're going to have us like stand in front of all these people to cheer us on. Like, this felt like, it just felt perverse. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm not somebody anybody should be cheering for. They should be fucking hanging me from the fucking stockades. Like, I'm just a fucking monster. Like, what the fuck? What are they doing? And I almost was getting disgusted with them, but I'm glad I went up there. Even though every part of my being is telling me, like, don't go up there, don't go up there. I went up there, and when, they told us, like, hey, here's our veterans riding through today. Like, please give them a round of applause. And, I heard that thunder, the cheering, the clapping. And I was like, they see me. They accept me. They're proud of me. It kind of flicked a switch in my head, and I was like, okay, I maybe I'm not that bad, maybe I'm not a monster. Maybe I'm not a horrible human being who made some mistakes that I feel like I can never make up for. And now I can go ahead and, see if I can make a new kind of change into life and get to a better place. And beyond that, I think it was just, again, all the different types of support, like Talk. They have this program called Talk where someone will call you once a week and I get to talk to somebody about whatever. It could be about what my next goal is. It could be what's going on with that day. But that way I wasn't alone again, because the more I was isolating, the more I was alone, the more I kept people away from me or dove myself into things that were just not going to be helpful, the more I was going to just further entrench myself within the thoughts and the pains and the suffering of my own mind. I think that's again a lot of the different things that helped me to get to a better place and where I'm at now. I feel like I'm starting to answer more of the card that I had at the very beginning. So talk about coming full circle here. But beyond that, I just very appreciative. I think where things really took a bigger leap is being able to kind of actually step into a new career, because like I had so long and so badly wanted to to become a doctor that I couldn't see myself doing anything else. And that I was really, truly the ultimate failure. And I remember I tried to call, when the Warrior Project has this Warriors to Work program, and my wife was like, you got to call them, just see if they could help you. And when I called them, and I was like, the person who was helping me was like, well, what do you want to do what do you want to do with your life? What kind of job do you want to get? And I told him, I'm laughing at myself now because I can laugh, but I told him I want to be a doctor, and then I cried. I started bawling on the phone. I'm sure the guy's like, man, this guy's fucking cooked. Why is he calling right now? And so I told him that. I broke down crying, and I don't think I ever talked to him again after that. It took me years before I finally got to a place where I finally got connected with them again. I talked to them at Warriors to Work, and I finally worked with somebody who was like a great fit. They got me to go out to these, those where the kind of the trade shows or where the hiring fairs and stuff like that. I was able to go finally talk to people. I was scared to even do that. I was afraid I was, I did get a little bit activated, but I was still able to tough it out, work through it, give out my resume to people. Even one person was like kind enough to give me some feedback on the resume and give me some heads up about different things I could do better. They also helped me to be able to see, well, what's a career I can turn to? And one of the things I loved doing in the military was training. I love training people. I trained, was it the infantry people and what we used to call combat lifesaver courses? Those were always a lot of fun because I swear, you see the biggest guy, the most biggest guy, and the minute you show them a needle, they pass out. They're out like a fucking light. And you're just like, come on, man. It's just a little needle. We're going to put it into your vein. But it was great learning about the materials, sharing it with them. And then also being able to kind of like, one of my proudest moments was training the Iraqi Civil Defense Corps or the new Iraqi Army. And I taught them first aid techniques. And, there was that language barrier. Yeah, we had a translator, but I also was like, you know what, why not just drop these images? Like they had, remember those books, the training books that they have in the military? They're basically taught at the 5th, 6th grade level. So that way it's understandable for anybody. And they also had diagrams. I was like, just draw my own diagrams. I can show them how to splint something, how to do all these things. So I was like, when the person I was working with at WWP told me like, well, training might be a way to go. They gave me different options like coding. But then I found out about this, like it's called like a health information systems trainer, where you teach other people how to use things like Epic and all these other health information systems. And once I found that out, okay. And then I was able to get a job for it. And I was like, oh, like I can actually maybe do some work. And it doesn't mean that all the activations are gone. My PTSD is good to go. No, actually, I got more activated in different ways that I didn't even expect that was going to happen. But I realized the more I was able to be vulnerable and open about what was going on with me, even though it put me at risk of maybe getting let go, of not getting a job, or whatever the case is. I mean, I'm not going into these job interviews and being like, hey, I'm fucking crazy. I think about like people trying to blow me up, and you don't want to, I'm not saying like just let it all out, let it all hang loose. I'm saying that when you finally get into that position and people are, you're building a connection with other people and you trust the other person across the way and you feel like there's somebody you can open up to a little bit, take that risk. I tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've been rewarded, but I'm not just telling any bum off the street what's happening to me. I'm talking to those people. I'm seeing like, hey, how's it going? How do they respond to me? Are they somebody I can trust? I think that's the biggest thing. One of the bigger things here is the more you can trust and find out what's going to be a good fit, then you're going to get that reward. That's one of the big things I learned in therapy was that there's no risk-free relationship. You're not going to just find, like, everybody you deal with is not going to in some way hurt you in some type of way. That's an impossible thing. And you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting the relationship up for failure as well. Because what can happen when people make mistakes, when they hurt you, it's a moment of where they can, find a way to make up for it, to forgive, and to even build on their relationship even more. And that's what I saw with work as well. And because I'm open about these things and I'm vulnerable for these things, I think it helps me so much to, have them understand me and then to be able to work with me too as well. So, yeah.
Circling back.
Yeah.
Your master's is in what again?
Medical science.
I've never specifically heard of that master's degree. Your goal was to be a doctor. But
Yes.
say there is somebody who's in the medic field, but doesn't necessarily have a desire to go on and be a doctor.
Yeah.
They come out. What can that master's degree do for them?
I think for this one, there's different areas they could go into. They can go into research, for instance. So like for me, that would have been another area that I could potentially go into, become a research assistant at a particular place, or maybe even work in laboratory technology. Because at least for me, if I had a better understanding of how the body works and how, because there's always that need for transitioning research to everyday medical care, bridge to help create a better, medical care for patients. But that's one way I could have potentially went to go. If I felt like, I couldn't even lean on that, and I wanted to even take a steps out of the bounds of that area, I could have potentially done coding, I could have got into programming. That was one area that I was thinking of too. But you could also lean, again, I guess this is where I realized that everything I learned in the past doesn't mean it's no longer useful for things in the future, especially if I turn like an about face and I'm going in an entirely different direction, then I can still lean on that information in various types of ways. Like if it was for coding, well, maybe I work on a medical application that could be useful for doctors or patients or something like that. I understand how the body works. I can figure out a way that I can be useful for different types of teams. You don't necessarily, people always talk about trying to fit a square peg through a round hole. Well, that's just not how life is. It is not black and white like that. We're malleable. We can shape ourselves to be whatever we want to be when it comes to the type of careers we want to step into. And I don't know, it could even got into comedy. I'm sorry if it's like too wide open of a thing, but I think what I hope people will hold on to is that the only thing holding you back from doing whatever it is that you want out of life, even if you can't do the thing that you love, that you thought you had a passion for, that you would give your left and right arm and just basically your entire body for, that there are other things that are going to be just as fulfilling, leave you just as realizing that I could do almost anything. But I feel like with the medical science, you can just step into the sciences. But for me, I think, what seemed like a good fit was, in this case, the trainer position, where I got to train other people, medical staff. I was training medical staff such as doctors, APNs, PAs, and the like, of how they're going to be able to actually use a health information system. Sometimes I would, when I was teaching my classes, I would open up and I would start out with a story from the war, Because I came from the medical side of things. I'm like, look, you need to know how to use this application so that way you can hopefully help your patients that much more. And I know you're exhausted. I know you're tired, but let me open your eyes here at the very jump, toss a grenade in your laps, and then that way you can pay attention to the next 4 or 8 hours of stuff I have to teach you. And I've got a variety of different reactions from it. I remember one person was just like open-eyed staring at me.
They're now in therapy.
Yeah, we're like, what is going? And then they're like, okay, I gotta pay. This is like super important, and it worked. For other people, they're just like kind of distrustful as well. That was the minority. And then some other people were just like, judgmental. But for the most part, people were like, they would pay attention to me. And that's how I was able to kind of be in service and be able to use what I experienced in the past and help other people in the modern day. Because when it comes to learning about this stuff, it's not the, most fun stuff to learn about. You click on this, you click on that, you do this and you do that. It's like, God, just, kill me already. This is horrible. I even had a doctor once who was like, Sergio, I'm going to jump off this building if I got to sit through this training any longer. I'm like, sir, it's not that serious. Come on. But, that's what I was, capable of doing, what I was able to realize that I was, able to do. But I think in large part, the more I can recognize kind of where my limitations are at and be honest about those things, again, integrity, a big value, it's going to help me be able to be successful and continue on in the path that I would like, which is 1, be a financial contributor to my family, and 2, at least in some way, still contribute back to the society that has helped me do so much. Again, did not do this on my own. I got help from my family, my friends, from this government who decided to help me out in whatever ways it could. Yes, I know the VA isn't the greatest, hasn't necessarily the greatest track record. I've been through some horrible VAs who, just kind of turned me around at the door, basically. But then I've been to some VAs who were absolutely amazing. I got some of the best care that I ever did at some of these other VAs. But I don't know. If there's anything I would hope for other people is that you got to try different things. You got to experiment a little bit. And even now, you're not going to find that one thing that's going to be fulfilling everything that you ever want. Even when if I was to get into medicine, became a doctor that I wanted to, who knows what could have happened? Maybe I would have been like, I fucking hate this. The next time I got
all these years at this,
and now I got to talk to another patient. I don't want to hear their freaking life story. Like, what is going on here? Like, what did I sign up for? But I mean, it could have gone a whole nother direction. I had a battle buddy who did get through medical school. He killed himself right after he finished, and I could have been like that same very guy. I could have ended up just like that. I got myself through school. I sacrificed everything, and I even sacrificed my own life just to make it happen. And it sounds like such a horror story to me, Is it worth your life, what you're doing right at that particular moment? I think that's the question I've had to ask myself again and again. Is it worth my life? And when it came to medical school, no, it wasn't. You know what was worth my life? My family, my wife, the things I wanted to do in this life to help me feel like I was some level of success, pretend at least in some ways I'm in this like normal part of society. I mean, I guess those things were able to help me, but I mean, it's in whatever I could find that was going to at least allow me to feel productive in this current life. So,
going back to that young kid, that young baby, so to speak, that didn't even know where Fort Riley, Kansas was, or at least where Kansas was.
Yeah. Oh my gosh!
And now you fast forward, you've lived in quite a few portions of the country. I believe Chicago, New York, Boston. For you personally, what part of the country do you like the best? You mentioned coming back to California before we started recording, simply because of the snow. But where have you enjoyed living the most?
Cali. This is where I want to die. I was born here. I'm going to die here as far as I'm concerned. I mean, don't get me wrong. New York was great. Chicago was, oh my gosh, amazing. Some of the best Mexican food I ever tasted in my life was over in Chicago. Boston was great as well. I'd never been in a place where you have that kind of big city life, but small town feel. New York, I mean, that's just like anything and everything you could ever want is there as well.
Was it always work that moved you around?
Well, I mean, first it was school. First, it was graduate school. Got me to move across the country
to Boston.
Yes, to Boston and Cambridge specifically. And then after that, my now wife, she also moved across the country for me. And because she made that sacrifice, when she got a job she got into this master's program, she had to go to Chicago. And so I was like, you did it for me. I'm going to do it for you. You made that sacrifice for me. I'm going to do the same thing for you. I went to go support her in the best way that I could. I mean, with the capacity I had at that time.
Right.
And then from there, she got a job in New York. So we moved there to, help prop her because I was like, shoot, the best chance we have for our family financially is I was riding her coattails at that point. It's kind of doing my own thing too at the same time. But for the most part, I was riding her coattails. And then after that, we did our time there. I got all the help I needed to do the best that I could. And then we came back to California. I mean, yes, the warmer weather was part of it. Another reason we came back, sooner than we originally planned, was unfortunately my mother had a stroke. And I don't know, I had to make it back before, the worst happened after that.
Right.
And I don't know, it's just, this is where home is. This is where my family and friends are. This is where, I don't know, coming back home. It got me to tap in, especially for being away for so long, got me to tap into a part of myself before the war. And I don't know, I feel sometimes I can see things a bit clearer now. But that's in combination of all the different things I've done in my life to try to get to a better place. The therapy, the medications, clinical trials that I stepped into as well. I'm telling you, I almost did anything and everything under the sun just to try to get to that better place. And I'm glad I did. Some things just didn't work out at all. I mean, some psychologists that I talked to were, oh my gosh, they took me down the wrong path entirely. But sometimes going down that wrong path, it opened up another door where I was able to see, oh my God, that helped me out so much. I was able to talk to another person, one psychiatrist, psychologist that I'm working with now that I can never imagine, anybody giving me the same amount of help that I'm getting right at this particular moment. And I'm blessed for that. I count my lucky stars for such things.
You mentioned when we first started that your sister went to MIT.
Yeah. Oh, one of my brothers did. Yeah.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Were you guys in the area together?
No. They were back home.
Okay.
Yeah, they were back in Cali at that time. So they were all back in California. Everybody else in my family pretty much was back in California. Only one brother was out and about somewhere else. But yeah, everybody, I guess they had, I don't want to say knowledge or wisdom enough, but they were just I need to get back to Cali as soon as possible. After being back here now, I can't imagine living anywhere else. I just love it here too much. But not to say other places, I'm definitely.
I was just wondering if you guys ended up in college. Him at MIT, you at Harvard at the same time.
Oh no!
Okay.
They were they were much older than me,
Got
so
it.
they were there at different times, and I went there pretty much on my own. So I was only one in my immediate family that was ended up on the East Coast at that time. Well, except for my baby sister who was going to what's that place called? Was it? Princeton. That's what it was. I can't remember the freaking name, but sorry. Yeah.
Your family in Ivy League schools, man. Wow.
I don't know how it happened. That's all I got to say. I don't know how it happened, but it's just that's just the dice we've been dealt. So we made things work as much as we can. But at the same time, I hope it doesn't push other people off to think they're an exception or something like that.
If it's not inspiring other people, I don't know what does.
I hope so. I hope so, Paul, because I get worried about sharing that kind of stuff because it's I don't know, people sometimes have a weird look or I don't know, this look of you're something other than human or something like that. It always makes me hesitant to say these things because I don't want to be treated differently from other people. But at the same point, I get what you're saying. And I'm hopeful for that too, where it's you can do these things. Even when I came back home with PTSD, I was still able to achieve so much. Yes, it cost me so much more because I did not take care of myself when I should have as soon as I came home. But I'll tell you what, there's no time like fucking now to start working on yourself, to start getting to yourself to a place where you are going to be able to do the things that you've always wanted to do. And for me right now, that's to be with someone who loves me, to be with somebody who sees me for who I am, even if I can't see myself in that very same way. And to do these crazy ass fucking things standing up in front of people, sharing my life with them, talking to you right now, potentially, I don't know how many freaking hundreds, thousands, millions of people who are going to fucking listen to this. Sorry. But it's I don't know, this is what you can be capable of. And it doesn't have to be fucking public speaking, but it can be just whatever it is that's going to be fulfilling for you. This is one of the things that fulfills me, fills up my cup, and other people will find what fills up their cup. But yeah.
I will say that as many times, and I understand the impact on you personally, but as many times as you can tell your story to as many set of ears, I would love to say that my podcast hits 1 million ears.
It will. I'm going to put out those prayers, cross my fingers, all that good stuff. It's going to happen, man. You've been working hard on this, I got to say.
And I appreciate that. But wherever you get the opportunity, if it's a room with 5 people in it, tell your story. Because I honestly believe there are a lot more men and women who are struggling like you did, like you still are. And knowing that there's somebody else out there that will be honest about their experiences is going to help them. So my advice, please keep telling your story anywhere and everywhere you can.
Thank you, Paul. I think, that's one of the difficult things about this is you don't always necessarily see the impact you have on other people's lives, and I mean, at least I like to tell myself that's one of the things that does happen with this, from time to time. It doesn't have to be each and every time, But to hear that from you, Paul, like I appreciate that. And I mean, it's nice. I get to add you as another voice in my head to let me know that, hey, you know, this is not the wrong path. I don't have to find another day job or something like that. I can continue doing this. I appreciate that.
As we bring it on home, any last piece of advice or words of wisdom that you want to make sure you get out there?
I think if there's anything that sticks out in my head, especially when I see the person that I was, and I imagine that, I guess, the place in other people's lives where they may find themselves, where they feel like they have to cut themselves off or, you know, take themselves out of this world because there's just no longer a place for them. It's just, please don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on the hope that you can do better the next day. This is not about all of a sudden turning your life around. This is about the very gradual steps you're going to have to take. And there's going to be many times when you fall backwards, you fall flat on your face. But as long as you look forward to the point of where you're going to move like that 1 inch every day and finally get to that goalpost that maybe 100 yards, maybe for me, maybe further on down the line, then you're at least much closer than you were before. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm so appreciative of, that I'm starting to still finally accept in my life, is that everything I've learned thus far is not going away. The memories that I have will be with me for the rest of my life. But just like those memories of war, all the education I've picked up on, all the life lessons, all the therapy, all the things that people have told me, just like you just did right now, Paul, those all stay with me too as well. And the more I can hold on to that thought and be able to accept the things that are going on in my life, as hard as it can be, well, at least I'm getting one step closer to being able to find a life worth living, a life where at least I can have some level of contentment and not be able to think that life is just the absolute worst, you know, it can be. And yes, it can be very difficult at times. I don't want to deny that. But you can find the tools, find the place where you can at least move forward and, I don't know, just be able to, I don't know, just enjoy your life. That's what I want for people, is to be able to find a place of healing. So I wish that for everyone, and I hope maybe hearing some of my story and learning from my mistakes, they may be able to find that as well.
Well, I truly appreciate you taking your time and sharing your story, not only with me, but anybody who listens to this. And I truly do wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you, Paul. I wish you the best as well.
Thank you. As always, thank you for listening or watching the episode. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out on social media or send me an email. The links are all in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're not already, please follow the podcast on whatever platform you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe on YouTube. And if you would, please leave me a rating. Ratings do two things. You can tell me what I need to fix or improve, and the more ratings also gets the podcast recommended to more people. Another ask, please share the podcast with anyone you think could benefit from and enjoy it. And last, don't forget, sign up for the newsletter.